All right, we're live, and it's time for another Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast. Hey, today we are going to be talking about food. So if you ain't your popcorn, your cold Allen's apple juice. Hey, today I've got a flavored orange juice. Anyway, get ready. Now, if this is your first time here, hey, I'm Alan. This is my wonderful co-host, Rebecca. We've been here since November 2013. Been all over Costa Rica. And hey, we love doing these live Q&As, answering your questions. So hey, there's a lot of people that they have questions, but they want answers now. Well, we give away all that information for free, but you can. You've got answers. You don't want to waste time looking for them? Well, just schedule your phone consultation. We'll be more than glad to talk to you, because I know there's a lot of ladies they're like, I really want to get a woman's perspective, about this or about that. And hey, all you got to do is schedule that phone consultation. We'll be more than glad to spend some time with you and answer your questions. So let's get into it. But hey, before we do, I'm always wondering, what's been happening on the off-grid homestead?
Well, as you know, you were not here for most of the week, but
I did come back earlier this week.
You did. That's why I said most. That's, technically correct. So, but we did have, it's the beginning of May, and so what starts happening the beginning of May?
May. Let's see. The kids get out of school?
No.
No. Oh, wait. We're talking about Costa Rica, not the United States. Okay. Well, hey, look, if you've been watching this channel anytime, you ought to know what is happening in May. Go ahead and write it down in the comments. What happens typically all over Costa Rica in May? Should we give it away?
Well, we've talked about it a lot, so they probably all know. But yeah, rainy season is upon us, as they say. It's gradually getting started. And as you know, we had, 3 landslides on the road because everything is dry. And then all of a sudden it starts having these spells of torrential rains and yeah, a lot of landslides.
Hey, Andres got it right. Yes, rainy season. And it's important that you know that, because there's a lot of things happening. Like Rebecca said, it's been dry all this time, and really it doesn't matter where you live, whether you're going to live on the beach, whether you're going to be living in the mountains, you're going to be traveling in Costa Rica. And it's not uncommon. We've traveled, going into San Isidro, because that's where we go most often, and there'll be landslides, and it blocks up traffic. That road might be blocked up. So it's important that you understand that, hey, May, typically all over Costa Rica, except over on the Caribbean side, they don't have a rainy season. It's going to start raining, and we had a gully wash. I mean, it was raining cats and dogs. What day was that? Was that Friday? I think it was Friday.
It must have been, because you were back. So
So anyway, it was raining cats and dogs. Hey, in the United States, we say it's raining cats and dogs. I'm sure all of you have heard that. But does anybody know what the Ticos say? They don't say it's raining cats and dogs. That's very interesting what the Ticos say. But hey, does anyone know what the Ticos say? If you know what the Ticos say, go ahead and type in the chat box, and we'll be talking about it.
At least in this region.
Well,
I don't know if it's all over, but
well, you're right. I don't know if it's all over, but I'm guessing since they say it rains cats and dogs all over the United States, I mean, surely that's not just, hey, if you've never heard it's raining cats and dogs, type it in the chat box. You ain't never heard. I'd like to know that, because I've heard it my whole life.
Yeah, that might just be a Louisiana thing, though.
Yeah. So anyway,
and something about dry season, because it's just starting to rain now, but we've experienced dry season. If you are dependent upon like a river Pelton and an artesian spring for your water, it gets really low. The water tables get really low. If you have an artesian spring, it might be drying up or barely trickling at this time, just before rainy season starts. And our neighbors have Pelton, and the waterfall that it's
the water they're getting.
The waterfall is
old Pelton. So if you don't know what a Pelton is a hydro system, and it's like a great big old paddle boat wheel, and it goes around and around and around, and it generates electricity. And so the more water goes in, it's like these big spoons, and that water hits it and it's turning, generating electricity. But our neighbor's got a real old one, okay? And they make smaller ones that, even with little amounts of water. But anyway, those are points to remember. So May is here. Rainy season is upon us. It's beginning to rain every day on a regular basis, which is good. But keep in mind, when it does begin to rain, trees begin to fall down because the ground is loose and it gets muddy and soft, and then you get landslides. So those are just things to keep in mind, because as you're traveling, you might get backups. But before we really get into rainy season, as you all know, I've been out working with a bunch of Ticos, been upgrading their water system, okay? And so, hey, I've been talking about it all month. Well, I got a little bitty video that I think you'll love. So why don't I share that video with you while you're thinking about, what do the Ticos say? If they don't say it's raining cats and dogs, what do they say? And hopefully remind me when we get done, I'll tell you about it. And, it's been a lot of work. Has been a lot of fun, and hey, I got to go back maybe 1 or 2 days this week just kind of put the final touches on it. But hey, we're finally done with this project. So hey, this time next week when I say what's been happening on the off-grid homestead, we might can update you. But hey, I've been wondering, does anybody know, what do the Ticos say whenever, instead of it's raining cats and dogs? So I don't see any answers right here. But, hey, I was asking a couple of different Ticos, and they said, well, the translation, I'll mess it up if I say it in Spanish. My Spanish is horrible. But they say, it's raining little frogs and big ugly frogs. So it's just funny how the culture is different. So it's raining little frogs and big ugly frogs. So anyway.
Yeah, and I take that to mean little cute frogs and big toads.
Big toads, yeah. So, I actually went to Google and I pulled up some pictures of what it is. So anyway, it was really, really, really funny. So anyway, an amazing project. And, it was really fun to work with this Tico family. And, this is Tico family that's out in a very remote area. And, they had their own coffee farm and really, really worked hard. And when I say we know Costa Rica, well, we know Costa Rica. We're in with the Ticos. I work with them, employ them. And, we've been all over Costa Rica, and I've been in Tico houses everywhere. And so, I want to bring this up because, the majority of the Ticos, it's either you got money, and if you got money, you probably living around in San Jose. But if you don't have money, you're living outside of San Jose, and most of them are poor. Ticos will comment on my channel and get mad because I say most Ticos are poor, and, they don't even know their own culture. And that's simply because most Ticos don't travel. They really don't. They don't travel very far away from their home. And, hey, every Tico house I've been into has been just like this one, where most of them don't have a ceiling. So they all have a roof, but you know what? Some of them, this roof has got aluminum beams or metal beams. But I've seen a lot of houses where it's just tree trunks, small trees that they've cut down, and that's what they're using. But and there's nothing wrong with that. They're extremely happy, having a great time. Because I know I grew up poor, but anyway, we're in with the Ticos, and we know exactly, we can really help you to understand life in Costa Rica. So anyway, so let's get back into the rainy season. Hey, today we're talking about food. So, hey, out of curiosity, real quick, I want you to type in the chat box, okay? I'm just curious. My favorite food, because look, I am, hey, we're both from South Louisiana, and look, I like to cook. Now, I don't know. Ask Rebecca. I think I'm a pretty good cook, but, maybe I'm biased. I could be patting myself on the back. What do you think?
I tell you all the time, you cook. I love your food.
And I'm not a trained cook, and I'm one of the...
But you have a knack for it. You know how to mix seasonings, and, and you kind of do the input, and, Yeah,
I can follow a recipe, but hardly ever do I follow a recipe. I'll cook something, and Rebecca's like, wow. I sure hope you remember how to make this next time.
And he does it because all he did was wing it as he went, you know. So.
Right. I just, so I'll make all kind of great stuff. And look, so I love cooking. I know food, okay? So I want to know. Put it in the chat box. What is your favorite kind of food? Even though I'm from South Louisiana, my favorite food is Cajun food. But if I'm not eating Cajun food, my second favorite food is I love to go to a Japanese restaurant. And I don't want to eat sushi. I want to eat traditional Japanese restaurant. What is your favorite food?
Yeah, well, it's the same.
But you like sushi.
Yeah.
You like to go and get a sushi roll.
Yes. That's my favorite.
So what is your favorite food? I mean, people are like, hey, I want to go eat Italian, right? I mean, Italians have got some really good food, lots of noodles, or maybe you like to go eat
Japanese, Chinese,
Mexican food. What are some other popular types of cultural food?
Lebanese,
Indian food, right? Mm-hmm. What is your favorite type of food? Put it in the chat box. I'm curious to know what is your favorite type of food that you've enjoyed eating. Now, Eduardo says, hola de carne. But hey, I want to know what kind of food. I didn't say what is your favorite meal. My favorite meal is ice cream.
I'm at a disadvantage in Costa Rica because my absolute favorite food is Cajun food, and that is full of seasoning, and so I'm used to a lot of seasoning. I like a lot of seasoning, a lot of flavor. And another disadvantage for me is I do not like cilantro. I just don't. I do not like cilantro.
Now, wait a minute. You said you don't like cilantro. So let's tell people, because maybe some of these people don't even know what cilantro is.
I think probably most people
know. You think most people know what cilantro is?
And it's almost a staple in almost all Costa Rican dishes.
A lot of Costa Rican food, huh?
And I like a little bit.
So cilantro is an herb. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that cilantro will grow wild in some places. Or maybe they've planted it and it just seems like it's in almost every house we rented in the front yard.
I think it just grows. But when we cut the grass, we can smell the
you can smell the cilantro all over the place, right? So, hey, come on, folks. I hadn't seen anybody tell me what is their favorite type of food, okay? What is their favorite cultural food? Is it Japanese food? What is it? Eduardo says he loves Cuban and Nicaraguan food. Hey, Karen likes seafood. I like seafood, okay? What kind of food, So I want to know what is your favorite type of food? Karen loves seafood. Eduardo says likes Cuban food, Nicaraguan food. What kind of food do you like? Do you like Cajun food? Have you ever tried Cajun food? Now look, let me tell you something. If you ever have you some Cajun food, be careful now, I got to warn you. And if you ever take a plate of that Cajun food and stick it on top of your head, your tongue will beat your brains out trying to get to it. It's that good. So, man, you got to be careful. You have a brain concussion. That stuff is good. Cajun food is absolutely. And look, so Cajun food, in my opinion, is some of the best food in all the world. When you go to South Louisiana, there are more obese and overweight people in South Louisiana, I think, than all the world. And that's simply because the food is so doggone good, they can't help themselves, man. They won't stop eating.
It's a hodgepodge of a real melting pot of different, no telling what cultures. It's got to be a little bit of French, a little bit of Spanish, a little bit, there's a bunch of cultures that settled in the area, and
it's a lot of different, and it's very
well
flavorful.
Known for flavor. Yeah,
well known for flavor. Now check out Keith. Keith says my wife's spaghetti and meatballs. Well, I think Keith is trying to get out of the doghouse. But hey, I can't blame you, Keith. So hey, but today we are talking about Costa Rican food. Now, how many of you have actually had Costa Rican food? Now, I got quite a few people here that's on the live today. If you've had Costa Rican food, first I want you to tell me, were you here as a tourist and you had Costa Rican food, or did you have you had Costa Rican food because you were away from a tourist area? Okay, so it's really important to understand there is a huge difference, and when you come to Costa Rica, it's a huge difference between living in Costa Rica and being a tourist in Costa Rica. As a tourist in Costa Rica, well, you're going to all the tourist areas, you're going to the restaurants, and those restaurants typically are not cooking what's called typical Costa Rican food. So it's sad to say, but you're not getting a genuine Costa Rican experience. So if you have had Costa Rican food, let me know. Yeah, you had Costa Rican food as a tourist, or hey, you was away from a tourist area, you stopped at a restaurant and you actually had Costa Rican food, okay? Since we've been all over, I can tell you a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
because you can be a tourist and go to the non-touristy
areas.
So I think what you were wanting to say is the restaurants in the tourist areas are not usually typical food. They might have a restaurant that will say typical food, and they might serve a few dishes, have things on the menu that are typical, but they normally are catering towards, tourists, and the dishes are more flavorful, and there's a little bit more variety in the tourist areas, as also in San Jose and the surrounding metropolitan area. Lots of restaurants and lots of different flavors, good restaurants, but there's a lot of competition there.
In the tourist areas, there's lots of competition, and they're making their foods different than traditional Costa Rican food.
Right, and some of the restaurants are not even, they're like P.F. Chang's. That's a international chain and restaurant, and there'll be Popeyes and KFC and Pizza Hut.
Yeah, there's
all those kinds of restaurants. You can
get some of those chains, and we'll talk about some of the different types of foods that you can get in Costa Rica. But yeah,
we're
absolutely.
talking about being out in the
rural areas,
the rural areas where you might
Chicos live.
Yeah, we literally have had lived in a place where we had two little teeny tiny restaurants. Both were sodas, pretty much. And we were at least an hour away from any other food. That's when we lived in Potrero Grande.
Right.
And so we were limited to those two. So if you
so we had original Costa Rican food, right? So, since we've been all over, we can actually tell you the truth about it. Now, look, I'm always doing research on YouTube to see what other people are saying. And, I really hate that because, other people on Costa Rica, and that's why I call this the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast, because we're giving you the truth. If you go and you look up Costa Rican food on YouTube, everybody on there is talking about, it's so flavorful. Well, nobody ever tells you what Costa Rican food really is. And most of those people are in the touristy areas, and they're not giving you the facts because all of them are trying to sell Costa Rica, or they're trying to get clicks to their channel. They're trying to make money off their channel. So, I always give you the unbridled. We give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay?
Yeah.
So
from our opinions and experiences. We've not experienced everything. So, but I like what Julio says. Costa Rican food is very healthy. It's very healthy. It's not healthy, loaded with a bunch of salt and sodium, and you really taste the vegetables. You really taste the flavors. I find it a little bland. You also find it a little bland, but it definitely is healthy. Everything that they cook. We're going to talk about the casada. The casada is extremely healthy.
So since you're bringing up the casada, let's talk about the casada, because Julio says, hey, Costa Rica food is healthy. Yeah, it is healthy. And you brought up casada. So what is a casada?
Casada, you mostly get that at sodas, which a soda is.
You almost can get a soda anywhere.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You can get it almost anywhere, even bigger restaurants. But typically, I find that, well, you know what it is at the sodas? That's pretty much all they have.
That's about the only thing they have at the sodas.
Yeah.
Okay, but we'll talk about that later.
But the casada is, it's the name for a plate
it's the cheapest plate you can buy in almost any restaurant and soda.
And I think what makes it's
kind of like the meal of the day, isn't it?
And what makes it is that it typically has the same ingredients regardless of where you are in Costa Rica. It's going to have the baked plantains It's going to have some beans and rice, a little bit of meat, sometimes.
Some little bit of salad.
A little bit of salad. Usually they're going to have that that little salsa that they make, and that's usually
about it.
what comes on
so
it.
So a casada is really
but
the
you're
most
getting your
popular.
carbs and you're getting your proteins. And
I'm not getting much. Well, you're getting proteins, but you're not getting much meat.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that a casada is a very, 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 very typical Costa Rican meal.
It's very economical.
It's the most common meal that people eat. Okay, so if you come to Costa Rica and you go out away from a tourist area and you want to eat original Costa Rican food,
order the casada.
Order a casada. Okay.
Yeah. And you can get a beef casada, you can get a fish casada.
You can usually get your choice of meat, you know, and you can say, okay, like
or vegetarian,
right.
you know, so.
Yeah. And so, you know, you can get different types. Now, you know, so that is a casada. We're going to talk about some other things, but I want to bring up a couple of comments here because Jerry Stewart agrees completely with Rebecca that cilantro is foul.
Yeah.
I agree because I don't like cilantro, but cilantro is in a lot of meals, which then makes a lot of things that we eat we don't like, because a lot of times, you know, it's like Cajun food. I love Cajun food, but there are some Cajuns don't know how to cook, and they just think the more spice that you put in it, then the better. Well, if your mouth, if your
mouth's on fire
and your mouth's on fire, you can't taste food. Okay, so I'm not dogging Costa Rican food. That's true with
and
food.
a lot of people, they love cilantro. They absolutely adore it.
Right,
they love
some
it.
places put way too much cilantro.
Right,
It's overpowering and can really ruin
I can enjoy a meal that
right?
has a little bit, but occasionally, more often than I like, they overdo it with the cilantro because they think everybody likes it.
Right.
But it's kind of like if you don't like red pepper, you're not going to like Cajun food. If you don't like onions and bell pepper, you're not going to like Cajun food. So,
you know, Cajun food has got such a humongous mix. I mean, it's jambalaya, crawfish pie, meal mayo. I mean, it's just really good food, you know.
Yeah, but so, you know, our opinion, a lot of that is based on that.
Based on our experience. So, you know, I'm glad you brought that, our opinion. So, you know, if you come from an area where their food is very bland, doesn't have a lot of flavor, and you come to Costa Rica, well, you might just absolutely love Costa Rican food, because I hear some people talk about how they love Costa Rican food. If you come from an area like Rebecca and I, and we're a Cajun country where we've got very flavorful food from a very rich and diverse culture, well then Tico food is very bland. You know what? I eat a lot of it. I never ever complain. Now here's what's real important, and this is an important fact. When you go eat, because you know, hey, I eat, majority of the time I eat plant-based food, okay? I'm not picky at all. All month long, I'm out here with this Tico family. We're working, we're upgrading this water system. And when I'm there, okay, I don't complain. I will eat whatever they serve me. These people are poor. If they serve me chicken, I eat it. If they serve me meat, I hope it's chicken. I hope it's something. I'm eating whatever they serve me, okay?
Right, that's good manners.
That's good manners. And you know what? Even though I don't like it, I'm like, man, this is good, good, good. And almost every single meal, that, you know, they've got, because this is a farm, they've got bananas all over the place. And to get green bananas, they're nowhere near ripe. Getting green bananas, they will boil those green bananas and they will serve it with almost every meal. So it's kind of like a boiled potato. It really doesn't have much of a flavor, but it's a staple. And they'll take those bananas and they'll grind them all up and mix all kind of different meals with green bananas that they've peeled and boiled. Plantains is staple.
I was about to say that they do the same thing with plantains. They have dishes with green, you know, unripened plantains, and then dishes with the plantains very, very ripe. I remember when I was in the United States, I used to see black plantains in the grocery store, and I didn't know what I didn't know what that was. I thought, you know, my goodness, they need to throw that out there. And now I understand the plantains are the best when they're black and they start to get a little bit of a
sweet then.
Yeah, and they get almost like a little bit of a fungus on them. It's not a fungus, but it gets some kind of like little thing. And that's when it's really
that little
sweet.
video that we were having at party, I was actually barbecuing some plantains on the grill, and I just barbecue them in the skin. I pull off a strip of skin on top, and look, if you never had barbecued or grilled plantains on the grill, you should try it. You should have grilled pineapples. Look, I did some grilled pineapples on the grill out there, and I don't think any of them had that before.
Yeah. Now,
and they loved
be
it.
the sweet, the ripe, the very, like the black skin plantains for it to taste good on the thing. And I have to say, it's not, in general, I find that the food is bland, mostly because they don't use a lot of salt, which is healthy. And we find that, like, there will not be salt shakers on the table. We actually carry our own salt, or we'll have to ask for salt, and they'll bring it in a little dish because they don't actually, the country is so humid that you almost can't keep salt. I mean,
right,
we have salt here and it turns to water.
It's not long. In a couple of months, it's just a clump that you can't sprinkle.
So I put a little bit in a container, a Ziploc container, just a little bit, because it'll turn water.
It lasts longer, right?
Yeah, but now we have neighbors that bring us food probably once or twice a month. That they've cooked, and their food is very flavorful. I don't know what they do differently. Their cheese,
but back up. Their food wasn't flavorful when we first got here.
That's true. I shared with her some Cajun seasoning. We were talking about that the other night. I shared with her some Cajun seasoning because they ate our food. They were here for supper, and they were like, "This is good," and I was like, "This is what we put." And I wonder, I wondered.
She went and maybe got some, because so the
it's
point
actually
here,
a blend that you can buy here.
So the point here is that most ticos do not hardly put any seasoning. Now, I don't have an answer as to why. I think it's because, of course, a lot of ticos are poor, and they're like, well, they've lived their whole life without hardly any seasoning. That's the way they've always cooked. They almost never use salt. When we go to a restaurant, every single meal, I have to ask for salt. A lot of restaurants, in the smaller restaurants, they don't have salt shakers in the restaurants, but they'll bring a little dish and they'll pour salt in there and bring me salt. That just goes to tell you how many places just don't use salt.
Yeah, but that's what they're used to. So probably if they tasted something that you or I had cooked, they would be like, "Oh, it's salty."
Let's pause a moment there, right? Because most of them, that's the way they've cooked their entire life. But let's kind of back up a little bit, because let's talk about some of the different types of foods that you can come here and get. Because every time a new restaurant opens up that is not a Costa Rican restaurant, for example, the Japanese restaurant opened up that Rebecca and I love to go to, that's in San Isidro. Anytime there's a new restaurant opens up that's not a Tico restaurant, whether it's an Italian restaurant or Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever, it will be jam-packed. So any restaurant that's not cooking typical Costa Rican food will be jam-packed, and it will stay packed, because look, Ticos like flavorful food. They just don't know how to cook it. Maybe that it's just not how they've been cooking, but they do like flavorful food. Mm-hmm. And so because we know that because we see how these restaurants are jam packed,
and that's in San Isidro, which is a city. So the countryside, there's not a lot of restaurants,
right?
So, but Karen is asking if we recommend to bring seasonings. And
before you go bringing up someone, let me know so I can put them on the screen.
Oh, okay, sorry. I say yes, except that. What is it called?
If that's some of your favorite seasonings, right?
Yeah, it might be. At least bring it to start with if you're really partial to it and don't want to live without it, because I do find that there's not a wide selection. Although with the arrival of Walmart, we have found more.
We can find more of our favorite type things, right?
And there is a brand that is very, very popular in Costa Rica. It's spelled BANA. They do seasonings, and they actually have a Cajun blend, and it is really good, you know.
So you can find seasonings here, especially in some.
But when we first got here, they didn't. I don't know if they just invented that a few years ago, because when we first got here, we couldn't find.
We had
anything.
a difficult, but we were.
I did find it in Panama,
but
though.
we were in San Vito, which is very small, doesn't and not a lot of stores to choose from. And you know, and like we said, we're never talking about San Jose. In San Jose, you can find almost anything. Okay, but hey, it's just like. You know what Jerry says right here. He says when we go down, we take all of the seasons that we like, and we even bring peanut butter.
Right,
okay,
because peanut butter is so expensive.
Right. So you know,
nuts in general are very expensive here.
Now, Randy says, is bringing in spices legal? Now, and here's the situation: if you were to ship in spices or ship in food, you're going to have all kind of problems. But if you bring spices and food in your suitcase, if you bring it in your backpack, you're not going to have that kind of a problem, okay?
Now, we brought seasonings, and at first I even brought some coffee, because we were having a hard time finding as rich in coffee culture as Costa Rica is, we were having a hard time finding a coffee blend that was equal to our state coffee, which is community coffee dark roast. And so we brought that for a little while, but quickly found now we have
there's
so
really
many
good kinds of coffee, because everyone's trying to do their own coffee brand
and we
there.
do the double pour with the sock. I don't know if y'all know what we're talking about, but you know, you boil the water. They have it's very, very popular in Costa Rica, where a sock filter,
It's a coffee sock.
A coffee filter hangs, and you put the pot underneath, and you pour your hot water over the grounds in the sock, and boy, that makes the best coffee.
Well, you know, in the United States, that has become the in thing to go to places like that and get over coffee.
That's true.
Well,
they call it pour over
they
coffee
call it
there.
pour over coffee. Costa Rica's been doing that for years.
Yeah.
And
you
it
can
is
find the
indeed.
socks in all the stores, the little holders. In fact, they have a lot of artists make the coffee sock holders. You know, they'll be shaped like a I don't know, a cloth or a parrot or whatever. So, we wanted to talk about some of the most well-known dishes that, like when you come to Costa Rica, that's what you're going to find.
Very, very popular dishes. So let's say when you're driving into Costa Rica, and what you would find on the side of the street, and some of the things that are extremely popular is ceviche.
Yeah, you can find ceviche in the touristy areas and in the...
You can find it everywhere. Ceviche must be something very easy. Neither Rebecca nor I have been crazy about ceviche, because a lot of times ceviche, you know, in Costa Rica, they use a lot of vinegar and cilantro, and, you know,
and
like...
lemon. They use a lot of lemon.
And a lot of lemon.
I don't like
I'm not
lemon.
crazy about that. So kind of like Karen says here. Karen says, you know, the love-hate of cilantro is based on a body's chemistry. The way some bodies react to the herb makes it taste kind of like dish soap. And she says she falls into the other group. She loves cilantro, and she throws it into everything.
Karen. I have heard that. And so...
so depending on you, right?
Yeah, so their genes, their genealogy, you know, where they come from, because they just absolutely love it. And they like a lot of tart things, a lot of lemon, like we were saying, lemon and vinegar. And ceviche to me is just raw fish. Well, sometimes it's cooked, but it's pretty much raw fish with a few little vegetables, and it's saturated in lemon juice,
right?
And cilantro.
But they got several different kinds of ceviche as well. It's not just fish. But it must be. It's a very popular meal, and you can find it just about anywhere. And a lot of people will make it, and they'll park their car on the side of the road, and they're selling ceviche. And we've been all kind of places where, you know, the kids will be going around knocking, trying to sell ceviche for their mom and daddies and stuff. So anyway, it is a popular dish. Now, Eduardo says Ola de carne. Ola de carne, he says, is the best. Obviously, he likes ola de carne. Now, if you've ever had ola de carne, it reminds me very much of my mama's cooking. Okay, my mama was Cajun, but she did not know how to cook. Okay, was the worst cook in the world. And when she would cook gumbo, Well, it tasted a lot like ola de carne, because ola de carne is really just, you'll have corn, some meat, some other veggies, and it's just in boiled water. It's just water thin. But hey, some people like that stuff, and it just doesn't have a lot of flavor for me. So if you like ola de carne, great for you. But I was like, Mama, this ain't gumbo.
Yeah.
This ain't gumbo.
Our Cajun food is very rich, lots of creams, lots of sauces. Everything is very fattening. And Costa Rica, the food is not fattening at all.
It's not fattening. Now take a look.
Now they do fry a lot of stuff.
They do fry a lot of stuff, but you know, and in Costa Rica, anyway, well, I won't go there. Anyway, but Julio says the farmers eat pinto for breakfast. It's high energy and needs the hard work. So another very, very popular food is pinto gallo or gallo pinto. So gallo pinto, I was looking at because I saw another comment here. Right here, Jerry says that when he's in Costa Rica, he eats gallo pinto for breakfast and lunch with a simple meal. Now, here's trivia for you, Costa Rica trivia. Gallo pinto is really beans and rice, okay? But then you'll have rice and beans for lunch and for supper. So what's the difference between gallo pinto and rice and beans for lunch and rice and beans for supper? Does anybody know? Because look, when you come to Costa Rica, you will eat a lot of rice and beans, and in the morning time it's called gallo pinto, but in lunch and supper it's not called gallo pinto, okay? So what you're eating at lunchtime is probably not gallo pinto, Jerry. It's something totally different. It's rice and beans. But what is the difference?
It's the same thing, though. It's the same dish.
It's not the same thing. Gallo pinto in the morning has scrambled eggs, okay, and you can mix it in with your rice. Most time it's not. So
it's not mixed in,
but it is actually.
But it comes on a breakfast plate with eggs.
But gallo pinto. Now Rudy, our favorite place to go eat, Rudy's restaurant. He has
La Torre,
Mirador La Torre. Okay, great outlook. And he says if you make a good gallo pinto is leftover rice and beans from the day before.
Well, so it probably tastes with more seasoning because it's
he says if any restaurant makes gallo pinto and they just make rice and beans, it's not real gallo pinto. Real gallo pinto comes from leftover rice and beans from the day before.
And then they serve it with eggs.
And then you serve it with eggs. Yeah. So that's the difference.
And Jerry is very right in what he's saying about, because the farmers around here, they get up at like before dawn, and they'll eat their breakfast, and they're out in the fields and doing whatever with their cows and and stuff, and they'll have an early lunch, and then they knock off because it gets really hot mid-afternoon out, if you're out in the sun. But the gallo pinto is full of carbohydrates and protein, and it sustains them during that working time, because the morning is when they do the majority of their work. So
okay. Let me bring up something real quick here, because Eduardo says something, and hey, you're wrong, Eduardo. He says it's not right. Stop it. Costa Rica is not poor. You're always saying this. Okay, well, I'm sorry, Eduardo. I've been all over Costa Rica. I've been in hundreds and hundreds of Tico houses. Okay, now if you live in San Jose, hey, those people have money. But you know what? I've been all over Costa Rica, and the majority of Ticos are poor. That's all it is to it. Okay, you can't tell me somebody that's living in a shack that has been thrown together, has tree limbs, that they're not poor. No, they're poor. They're poor, okay? But there's nothing wrong with being poor. I grew up very, very, very poor. Nothing wrong with being poor. But guess what? Whenever you're making $3 an hour, you're not rich, okay? And guess what? These Ticos that were working for me, and that work for me, they're making about $3 an hour unless they're operating equipment. But all of these people that were working free for me on this upgrading their water system, they make $3 an hour, okay? And they're very, very poor. No, most Ticos, if you're not living in San Jose, you're poor, okay?
Or
not all Ticos.
The tourist areas.
If you live in a tourist area, you're making a little bit more money. You're getting chips and things like that. But unfortunately, look, I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Most of the people who are not living in San Jose, they are poor. And it's just the way it is. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not biased. I'm not racial. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm giving you the facts. Hey, I respect them. And when I'm out there and I'm living with them, I eat what they have. And I'm wooing over how great it is, even if I don't like it, because they're giving me what little bit bit they have, and I'm honored that they will actually feed me. Okay, so
well, it's mostly in the rural areas because there's not a lot of industry.
There's not a lot of industry.
That's the thing, but they choose to live out in the rural areas like we have.
They're agricultural people. So they are planting their own beans, drying their own beans, okay?
Yeah.
Guess what? If you're not poor, you're not planting beans and drying your own beans. You're thinking going to the store and you're buying beans. That's just the fact. But you know what? Everywhere that we've lived at, we see our neighbors who grow beans on their farm. They're putting them out on a tarp, on a piece of plastic in the front yard. They're drying beans and they're putting up beans that they're going to eat all year long. And beans are cheap. Beans are cheap, but they're growing beans because it's a lot cheaper. It's just a fact, okay? So look,
But even in the city like San Isidro, there are a lot of big houses, a lot of nice
there
cars.
are nice places.
So
but
when you're saying that it's poor people, it's because we go out into these rural areas where there is no industry, there are no I mean, if they have one store and one restaurant, how many jobs is that?
Not many.
That's a handful. So there's a handful of people that are actually making a wage. Like the people who live up and down this road, I don't know where they get their money from other than growing because they're so far away from town. I don't know how they could possibly, we see people still walking to school. I mean, really, it's, they, sunshine or rain, they're walking to school. And, we see people walking with their machetes and they're herding their cows maybe. Of course, the people who own cows probably have a lot of money.
Now, like Doug says, the monetary disproportion, proportion is tremendous in Costa Rica. It's a fact. In Costa Rica, there's almost no middle ground. You either have money or you don't have money. Tom, hey, I'm going to address this, okay? It's not that the majority is poor. No. And we always say it's not San Jose. If you're out of San Jose, the majority is poor. And you pay your people bad. No. I pay my people exactly what the actual labor of law, the Ministry of Labor says, this is what you pay for day labor. You pay them 1,500 colones an hour. That's $3 an hour. I pay them what they're used to getting paid. Okay, the guy that operates a backhoe, he's getting paid $50 an hour. Okay, no, I don't pay my people poor. That's your opinion. I pay my people exactly what the Ministry of Labor has decided their people should get paid. Okay, Tom?
That's for, they're digging a trench.
Yeah, they're digging a trench. They're stinking mixed in cement. They're doing manual labor. This is unskilled, untrained labor. They're getting $3 an hour.
Yeah. Now, like housekeepers, recently Costa Rica has passed a law that the housekeepers, like someone who, cleans houses for a living, they've increased the minimum wage for housekeepers, which I found that was interesting that they just picked a particular segment. But the people that you see just working, clearing the sides of the road and all of that, that's the minimum wage. Now, in the United States, we're not used to that. Yeah. Louisiana's minimum wage is way less.
It's very different in the United States,
like in California or something like that. And so somebody from California would think, oh my gosh, you make $7.50 an hour, but that's the minimum wage.
Well, it's important to realize that when you go to different cultures, because I've been in many different cultures, you need to respect the culture. If I were to come down here and start paying somebody $10 an hour, that's not respecting their culture. What that does is that changes the culture, okay? And you don't want to do that. You need to respect the culture. Let's get back on food, because this whole show is about food today. And let's talk about, Jerry says, don't forget chifuro. I don't pronounce that right. And that is a very popular meal with chicharrones. And chicharrones is kind of like in the United States or in Cajun country, we have pork skins, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like that. And it's not kind of the puffed up pork skins. This is
more like a crackling.
Right?
It's deep fried little chunks of meat is what I think that chicharrones is.
Yeah. Now Doug said something about the ceviche. He says it's cooked by the acidic acid of limes and a little vinegar, bringing it in for several hours. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
You know, and of course Jerry says that ceviche is very healthy. Yeah, it is very healthy, although it can leave you hungry in about an hour or two. You're right, because it ain't much to it, okay?
Yeah, most of the time it's just a little bowl.
So, any you know, but hey, now, there's,
Look what Oregon Grape says, agrees with.
He says, now Oregon Grape says the fastest way to destroy a country is to pay the locals more than the other locals would pay them. Soon they won't work for each other, and people who think that paying too little are just aren't thinking. Absolutely agree with you, Oregon. So, you know, when you go there, you need to integrate into the community. Yeah. Anytime you go to a country, you need to integrate, respect the culture. I go somewhere, I may not like the food, but you know what? I respect it. I eat a lot of stuff I don't like because you know what? They're giving me something off of their table, off of their house that they've worked for, and I honor that, appreciate it, and I thank them for that. I ask them, hey, how did you cook this? You know, and there's some things I do like, okay? And so I'm learning, okay? So, hey, you know, when you pay your people too much, well, you end up destroying and ruining the culture, okay?
Well, and this is the wage that they ask for. I mean, when we have
this
people
is
come
the normal wage.
and help, and we ask them, what is your wage? That's what they tell us.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what we're paying them.
Let's get back to talking about some of the typical foods. Now, hey, look, we were talking about food. What about drinks? You know, every time, all month long, I'm out there, and this has happened, you know, since we've been here for 10 years. You go to a restaurant or something, while what do they call it in the restaurant? Batidos? When we're talking about drinks?
Batidos.
Okay, so in a restaurant, they may call it something different, but when you're at home, they'll make a fresco. Hey, do you want a fresco? Let's take a break and have a fresco. A fresco can be made out of just about anything, okay? And a fresco is normally a fruit drink, and it can be made out of star fruit, which is cannabola. It can be made out of oranges. I had some
Cass is very popular. It's a little tiny fruit that is sour, so sour, and they put a ton of sugar in it.
Most frescoes have a lot of sugar in it, okay? So fresco is a very popular drink.
And batidos have milk.
Yeah.
It's almost like a milkshake, a fruit
So fresco, if it's a batito, it's kind of a most frescoes are made with water, but if you make a fresco, a fruit drink with milk, well then it all of a sudden becomes a batito. But then you can go to a restaurant and they say batito, and they'll ask you, do you want it with water or do you want it with milk? But fresco is a common, very, very popular drink. The other day, I had a oatmeal fresco, and they just take oatmeal, put it in water, let it set a little while, stir it all up, and then you're drinking raw oatmeal in a drink, okay? So, hey, it is very, very different. Hey, how about plantain chips? That was something we loved.
Yeah, when we came here, that was one of the new things to discover, because we don't have plantain chips in the United States, and they are so delicious, and they are full of seasoning. I don't know what makes them so different, but they have almost like a Cajun
they make one
blend. It's called chili.
Yeah, it's a chili
flavor plantain chip, and then they have, of course, the one that's lemon and then just salt. But anyway, plantain chips are very popular here, just like potato chips are, and they're homemade. A lot of them. They're not they're not mass produced inside of a factory. They do have some, right. But a lot of them will be a local person that just puts them in plastic bags and does
takes them to all the little bitty stores.
Goes around to the little stores. They have little tiny displays that are pretty much just a pole with the plantain chips have like a wire pass through the top of the bag. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so
if there's a hole, don't buy it if there's a hole, because they are stale as I don't know what. They'll break your teeth.
One of the things I really like about Costa Rica is that the entrepreneurs, if you want to make money, and it's like these people that are making these plantain chips, and it's usually somebody different in every little town who's making these plantain chips, and then they'll seal them in their own bag, and sometimes they don't get sealed good, so they'll be stale, so you want to be careful. But, they'll make lemon flavored, sweet flavored, chili flavored, and we like the chili flavored. Sometimes hard to find. But if you want Good plantain chips. Don't go inside a store like the BMA or a Walmart. You won't find the locally made plantain chips. They really are good. Now, Randy says that, he's gluten-free, and would he have a problem with that? I don't fully understand gluten-free, and I don't know how there would be any gluten inside. Because, look, plantains, they just simply, it's really thin. They put it in grease. They fry it and some seasoning. So I don't know that they would have any gluten in that, Randy. But it's extremely, extremely good. Makes a really good snack,
And something in the countryside, in the agricultural areas, we are still able to buy milk directly from the cow.
I love that.
Yeah, but I did read that they were starting to crack down on the pasteurization. So I don't know how long that's going to still be that the guy comes on, the milkman still comes by, the lady with
pause a moment there. The milkman still comes by. So this is, when she says the milkman comes by, we're talking about, we were living in one place and several places. Milkman, and this particular guy was on a motorbike, had a basket, little bags of milk, fresh squeezed. I'm talking about fresh squeezed milk.
Yeah, it was like an ice chest on the back of his motorcycle.
And he would go from house to house selling milk, and we would buy fresh squeezed milk. And look, if you haven't had fresh squeezed milk, you'll love it. And so you can really get some really, really good stuff in Costa Rica. And like she said, they were trying to crack down on it, but you know what? There's always going to be. We've got a neighbor about a mile down the road who has a lot of cows, sells a lot of fresh squeezed milk. Yeah. Okay, but that's one of the things that you can get.
You can get, chicken, free range chickens. I mean, people who actually, lots of people have chickens in their yards. A lot of people have free range chickens, and they collect the eggs. And a lady will walk by with a basket full of eggs and say, "Ope."
Yeah, and then you just bags of eggs.
Just go out to the sidewalk and buy however many eggs.
Oh, now here, look, this is good. Doug says, "Don't eat pasta or pizza." Okay.
That's for the gluten. The pasta and pizza, there's gluten in that.
Okay, maybe he's talking about it, but hey, I can almost agree with you on the pizza. So we love pizza, but the problem is, what is so different about the pizza in Costa Rica?
They put broccoli on it. I don't like that. I always order mine with...
Costa Rica's a little bit different. They will put little pieces of broccoli on the pizza.
Hold the broccoli.
It is different, and so anyway, pizza can be a little bit different in Costa Rica. Yeah. I've never found any thick crust. I like a thick crust pizza, and I haven't found a thick crust pizza anywhere in Costa Rica. Most of it's thin crust or maybe a medium crust pizza. Okay.
Oh, and Doug is saying that the gluten is in the wheat, which is what I thought. And so, Randy, you probably just have to shop at one of the bigger grocery stores that have a big selection of things. But look what Eduardo is saying.
I hadn't forgotten the tamales, Eduardo.
It's on our list.
It's on our list. We hadn't got there. We get to talking about so much stuff. So the tamales.
And we're almost out of time.
Yeah, we're almost out of time. But the tamales, that's what we got. We can't go too long on that.
Yeah.
Well, the tamales. And look, so when do they make the tamales? Tamales is a very...
It's a traditional Christmas event. It's a meal and an event because the families get together and they just make it's a gathering where they prepare these tamales, and almost every neighborhood that we have lived in,
and look, in over 25 different places that we've lived,
neighbors will bring the tamales at Christmas, and I can tell you there are differences in the way that they're prepared. I've had some really, really good ones, and some that was
just very bland.
Yeah,
right?
Very bland, and so there's a variety in the preparation of it, but it is. You can get them anytime, really, I suppose.
Yeah,
in the store, but at Christmas, that is like. It's an event. It's a Christmas event. And at Easter, we were talking about at Easter time, they will collect some white flowers from the top of a plant. I don't know the name of the plant, and they cook those white flowers.
And they cook these white flowers. But it's really more of
It's a garnishment.
a wise tale, you know, and they will normally eat this thing, and it's usually around Easter time or what's called Semana Santa, Holy Week, okay, where they're eating these beautiful white flowers that come off some plant, and I don't have any flavor to me on them, but anyway, it is something very, very popular.
And Doug is agreeing with us about the pizza is horrible. Yeah, because the sauce is very, very thin. It's no flavor, and they don't know how to do the thick crust pizza.
So we're running out of time, but let's quickly talk about some of the different type of restaurants you would go to. So obviously almost any country has fast food, and Costa Rica has its own type of fast food that you can go to. But what's really popular is you'll go to and you'll see restaurant bar. And that's what it says on the sign, restaurant bar. And so that simply means it's more of a restaurant, but you can sit at the bar and get drinks, okay? But you also have some that says bar restaurant, which simply means it's more of a bar, but you can get finger foods and some little meals, okay? So there is a difference between a restaurant bar and a bar restaurant, okay? Mm-hmm. But if you want to get typical Costa Rican food, or you want to try cultural Costa Rican food, some of the best places, a good casada, is you want to go to a soda. If you go to a soda, most of the time when you go to a soda, it's a mom and pop's restaurant. Tiny thing, and there's usually, most places don't have a menu. They might have pictures of the food on the wall, but you go to a soda and you can get typical Costa Rican food, okay? And like we said, whether you like it or don't like it, doesn't have a lot of seasoning. Ask for a little salt. Salt always makes things a little bit better. Salt brings out the flavor, okay? But you go to a soda, and sodas are always a lot cheaper than going to a restaurant. And you can get some really, in my opinion, the best food in Costa Rica is when you go to a soda.
Yeah, well, we were saying last week when we kind of touched on the subject, it's like going to your grandma's house. It's like, what did you cook today? It's home cooked food, and it's very healthy and very delicious. Look, what Doug is saying about the white flowers that I was talking about. I didn't know what they do with it. We just see them cutting it down and people walking around with the white flowers. So they make a tea out of that. With those flowers?
Well, Doug is saying they make a tea out of it. His wife used to make it something like Talbo is the name. So, hey, so
thanks for sharing that, Doug. Yeah. I didn't know what they did with the flowers.
Well, no, they actually do cook it and eat it, but they also, well, he says they make it, but I know that they actually cook it and eat it, but he's saying they also make a tea with it. Okay.
I know, Eduardo, you have to be joking.
No,
you are joking,
Eduardo has said it a lot. Eduardo loves the ketchup. Sorry, Eduardo, you are probably the only person in the world that likes the Costa Rican ketchup, okay?
It's sugar. It's red sugar water.
Yeah. Look, everybody that I know hates the Costa Rican ketchup. It's very cheap. It's very thin. So, you know.
It's tomato jam, tomato jelly or whatever.
So if you like ketchup, like Hunt's ketchup, real ketchup, you know, some restaurants, finer restaurants will have good ketchup. But hey, Eduardo, I'm glad you love Costa Rican ketchup. But hey, I'm sorry, I can't agree with you. That's okay. It's not about agreeing with me. You know, Doug says the only ketchup is Heinz. Costa Rica ketchup is sugar water with color.
I know, it's nasty.
We agree with you on that one, Doug.
Yeah. So if you really like ketchup, your own brand, you might want to bring that.
That's right. So, hey, sorry, Eduardo. I'm glad you like it, okay?
But you can in the stores buy Heinz.
Yeah, you can.
I think just Heinz, like Doug was. I don't remember.
Heinz is a good. Hunt's is a good ketchup. So anyway, but before we go, because we're already past time, what is some of the most popular desserts in Costa Rica?
Oh, I know that.
All right, what is the most popular dessert?
Tres leche. To me, everywhere that I go, and it's known. Costa Rica is known for the tres leche.
I think tres leche and a rice pudding. They make a rice pudding.
Yeah, that's very popular too. But I like tres leche because I like soggy cake, and that's pretty much what it is.
I don't like soggy cake.
It's a cake. Yeah, you don't like cake and ice cream. I like.
It's against the law to mix cake and ice cream. Do you know that? It's against the law. If I catch you, I'm calling the police.
No, and I like a piece of cake with the ice cream on top, and it has started to melt. And I'm making myself hungry for something sweet. But yeah, that's what tres leche is, like this sweet milk on the bottom, and the cake has been setting in it. But with dessert, I find, I have a sweet tooth. I find that they don't put a lot of sugar. It's not like in the U.S. where all desserts are sweet. I'll see this gorgeous looking donut or piece of cake or whatever, and it doesn't fix. It doesn't
Rebecca
do my
has
sugar
the
fix.
worst time.
Doesn't do my chocolate fix because
I go to town and I take photos and say, "What do you want?" She's like, "Oh, I want that one." I bring it back and she's like, throw the whole thing away.
that's only happened once. Most of the time I eat it anyway. But
Karen says, "I heard there was rice pudding vendors on the side of the road." Yes, I have seen that. So rice pudding is a very popular thing,
yeah,
and
that's something
obviously
easy
it's very
to make
easy
from
to
home.
make. Yeah, and I've had some of the locals feed me rice pudding from their house. Look, when I say we know Costa Rica, we have been in a lot of Tico houses, and you know what? While there's a lot of things that we don't like about Costa Rica, there's a lot of things we absolutely love about Costa Rica. It's the whole reason we're still here after 10 years.
And have no plans of moving back.
No matter where you go, but it's a different culture. We respect the culture, and the most important thing you can do to have a successful transition when coming to Costa Rica is to understand the culture. If you understand the culture, then you can have a successful trip, and you can really begin to enjoy Costa Rica.
You'll have the right expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, we've already been over an hour. Hey, if you got any last minute questions, now's the time to put it in there. We've actually had a great time talking about food in Costa Rica. There's lots more that I wanted to talk about, but hey, our time just goes so fast. And we love answering your questions. Karen says, thank you so much for all your information. She'll be here in August, and she's looking forward to trying out Costa Rica.
Oh, good. Folks, I'm excited for you, Karen.
We're really excited for you, folks. We've had a great time. Can't wait till next week. Next week, we are going to be talking about Tico families and the culture of Tico families. We've been around a lot of Tico families, and I don't know anybody on YouTube who can tell you about Tico families like we do, because we're in with the Tico families. We've been around them so much, been in their houses, shared meals with them so much. We can tell you about the Tico families. We've been all over Costa Rica. If you come to Costa Rica and you've been to one place your whole life, if you came to Costa Rica and you only lived in Uvita, if you only lived in La Fortuna, if you only lived in San Jose, how much can you tell about the culture? You can't, okay? Well, we've been all over and been in so many Tico families, we can actually tell you our experience, so we can tell you what we know about living in Costa Rica. And being with the Ticos.
And that's why visiting Costa Rica is very different from living in Costa Rica, because most of the time when people visit, they visit tourist areas, and tourist areas are not a good representation of the actual
not at
culture.
All, huh? Matter of fact, we'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks. So next week, we're going to be talking about the Tico culture when it comes to Tico families in Costa Rica. All right, folks, we'll see you next time. I can't wait to see you. And please make sure to shout out, like, comment, subscribe, share this video with people so that more people can get it. We greatly, greatly appreciate it, and greatly appreciate when you actually comment. Even after we shut this down, comment underneath the video so that YouTube will push it out so more people can see it. Because, we share this information absolutely free. We don't have anything to sell you. We could care less whether you come to Costa Rica or not, but what we do care about is if you come to Costa Rica, we want you to have a successful move, and hence the reason we give you the good, the bad, and the ugly on the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast. See you later.
Ciao.